Joy, the Mindset Reset expert. Here we are, A Natter That Matters, with the lovely Kim today. Hello, Kim.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, a bit chilly actually, but other than that, I've got a jumper behind me. I'm resisting the urge to put it on because it looks slightly less colourful than my shirt. So I'm going to stick with the cold but colourful look for the minute.
I love what we look like on Zoom and even on audio. So some people are listening, some people will be watching this, but you look lovely to me, Kim. So very glad to have you here on A Natter That Matters, because somebody said to me the other day, what is this A Natter That Matters? I said, well, all the conversations we have matter, don't they? We never know where they're going to go. And I think some people are quite closed off to that. And I think I was during some points. So I kind of thought, oh, what's the point of talking to that person? But I had a real update on this. I don't know why I'm telling you this, I'm sure, but somebody needs to hear it. When I was on a networking event, and I got paired with a guy, and I thought, I've got nothing. He had a job as well, so like completely, I coach business women who are starting up and their own thing, and he was not my client, like the opposite. And it turned out he was an expert on TikTok. And he then came and did a training in my membership on TikTok, like really basic stuff, because most people haven't got a bloody clue, have they? We might look at the odd video, dance video, cat video. So conversations always go somewhere. And we've just had a little prelude to this. And I already think this could go somewhere. So Kim, explain to people what you do as a money coach. And people will be like, oh yeah, but don't you do money mindset? I'm like, yes, I don't do the physical stuff. So yes, Kim, tell us about your journey and how you got to be a money coach.
Okay, so I have been in investment management as a career for 30 years, a career that I walked away from on Christmas Eve. So it's a huge sort of step, a leap of faith for me to put my all into my coaching business. But actually, I've been doing the two alongside each other for the best part of 15 years. I started coaching in 2005 or 2006. So the difference that I've got that most money coaches don't have is that I've got that real investment experience. I have ridden the ups and downs of stock market crashes for 30 years. So there have been one or two blips, wobbles, and outright panic moments in that time. And that means that I can talk to people about getting through them, that it's not always the scary place that they think it is, or it's not always the place just for rich people to get richer. It's for everybody. It's for men and women, and it's for older people and younger people. But they need to know that, and they don't. So my coaching journey takes them on, my coaching journey takes them on that part of their money journey. There are lots of money mindset people. There are some really rubbish money mindset people. There are some brilliant ones, as you know. There are lots of people that have jumped on I've suddenly become a money mindset coach because that's the buzzword. It's good that we're talking about money more. But what people are still not doing is then taking action with that because they simply don't know where to start.
No, I agree completely. And nobody knows this. Actually, you don't know this, and people listening. But one of my first jobs, it was my second job actually, was financial services. So I used to work for American Express, and I soon realised it wasn't for me. I was like, I don't want to be talking about the actual money. But back then, my money mindset was hideous. I was a compulsive gambler, which had been bred into me by my parents, who are no longer with us, and neither is my gambling addiction, beautifully. So that I know about money mindset. So mine is from my experience of knowing how shit it feels. And it all comes from self-worth. And so I think your clients and my clients, and I mean, money is just a tiny part of what I do at the beginning, that we have to free up the self-worth, self-value kind of perspective on what you can earn, can spend, can invest, before they will then actually invest in themselves, in their business. So that's why I do it. But actually to have you and have this conversation now is when they free up their mindset and they get to that space where they're thinking, well, actually, I should invest in my future in some way. I should understand it all. I could start now, and I wish I'd started when I was 18. Kim, I do. I would have loads of money now. I think of all the money I wasted, but I could have been investing, and I wish somebody had educated me properly back then. So I think it's great work. So the people listening to this are women who have started up their business or about to start up. They've maybe got a salary or a job, and I know that's just a congratulations for you leaving yours, by the way.
Yay.
So what is your kind of, how do you start working with people? What's the first thing people need to understand or do? They're the two things, I suppose, aren't they?
So first of all, realise that it's never too late. I've got a lot of women come to me in their 50s and say, but I'm now 57. is it too late to start? And the answer is obviously not, because you've probably still got, as a woman, we've probably got another 30 years in us. If you're coming to me in your 50s, the average age for life expectancy for a woman is somewhere in the mid 80s.
Gosh, is it? Didn't know that.
Yeah. So, of course, none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know when our time's going to be up. But generally speaking, if you come to me in your 50s and say, is it too late? My first question is going to be, why? Are you planning on dropping dead tomorrow? Because the reality is, if you've got 30 years ahead of you, that's 30 years of choices and spending and living life that you want to have. You've worked damn hard for your money, whether it's building a business, having a salary, whatever it is that you've been doing, you've worked hard for your money. So now is the time, before any more time goes by, to start it working hard for you, so that for those next 10 years, 20 years or 30 years or even longer, you've got choices.
Sounds good. I
too late.
Worked really hard at spending it, Kim. I look back at some of my life and go, oh, they were interesting decisions with you. And I bought Porsches and boats and lots of wild holidays, and I built houses. And I look at some of the, in fact, I was talking about this yesterday. I look at the first house I built. If I'd have had some advice on money at that time, somebody would have said, don't do that. Just get planning permission and sell the land, then you can pay off your mortgage. And I look at my situation back then, and I didn't. I thought, oh no, it would be exciting. Got myself into lots of debt because I didn't know what I was doing. I look back at that, and I think we don't seek advice because we don't know what we don't know, do we?
We don't. And I've done exactly the same. In 1989, I bought my first house. Interest rates were 16%. Yeah.
1989.
My husband at the time was made redundant 3 times in 3 years. So we certainly had no real money. I was 19 years old. What did I decide to do when I was 20 years old? With a husband in unreliable employment, a job that I think paid me around £7,500 at the time, and a mortgage that took up pretty much all of that. We had no carpets. We had a secondhand fridge, and that was life back then. I decided I wanted to learn to fly.
Oh, well, you didn't buy a boat. I could be worse.
I did buy a boat later on, which we never used. It sat in the driveway on a trailer and never really got anywhere. But I decided to learn to fly because that suddenly became, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. And I also knew I needed to fund it. So this is where we start going a little bit haywire with our money, because an hour in a plane with an instructor cost me £70 an hour back then. That was an awful lot of money. So to fund it, I went and got myself an evening job 5 nights a week at Rowntree Mackintosh's, the chocolate factory, which was at the time in our city. And for every hour that I worked on the production line, packing Yorkies or Rolos or selection boxes, every hour was the equivalent of 2.5 minutes in a plane.
Love it. Oh my God.
So I was ticking off the hours going, oh, that's another 2.5 minutes. If only we could apply that same logic to, that's going to give me X amount in a fund that I could build up, which will give me choices in the future. We don't. Nobody said to me at the time, what on earth are you doing? In fact, they congratulated me on working hard to get what I wanted.
Absolutely. I tell you what I did do. I opted out of SERPs. So I'm like, honest to God, I don't even know what will happen when I hit actual retirement age, because there'd be nothing there. So,
but that's a long way in the future.
That's the problem, isn't it, Kim? We go, oh, I haven't got time for that. In fact, I had this conversation. My partner hasn't been very well about private healthcare, and I had it once. And it was about £20 a month. Now, to get the similar level of care, I wish I'd carried it on. I really do, because of course I couldn't afford that when I was that age. £20 was a night out or new shoes, which was far more important. Now I'm like, oh, why did you make that decision? I think the education should come from much younger, so that when we get to 50s, I'm 50 this year. Thank you for that reminder. When we get to our 50s, we understand it all. Like that, Think and Grow Rich was for me a pivotal change. I read that about 20 years ago, and I was like, oh, I get it. That's why we're just spending money on like frivolous things like flying and stuff. They're investing money to yield more money. Like, I really understood that. It was a bit of a game changer, really. So,
but hindsight's a wonderful thing
in everything, isn't it?
Also, we can't go back and change it.
we can't know. And some of the
but
stuff.
what we can do is we can learn from it, and we can teach the next generation. So
absolutely.
my daughter is 27, and so I want her to go through life making more sensible choices, still having fun, still buying the things that excite her, still traveling when she wants to, when she's able to at the moment, but also planning for her future so that she has better choices than the ones that I created for myself.
Yeah, so you're helping people create a legacy for not just themselves, but for their the ability, like the capabilities, actually, not even just the money and the way that kind of fund is held. You're talking about the actual mindset around it from a different angle. So not the fear mindset. This is the freedom mindset, really. It's like the other end. Yeah, very powerful.
Because if we don't plan for our future, if we don't put our money into our retirement pots, or buy an investment property that we can then sell or take a rent from in due course or whatever. It doesn't have to be stocks and shares.
No,
it just
my
needs
first
to be
mortgage
something.
was £27,000, Kim. I'm like, why did I sell that house? Why? I can look at some of the other decisions. I'm like, I could have had loads of houses. I did. I've built houses. I've done lots of property development, and now have none. So I really have had to start again, ground zero, about 5 years ago. You said earlier about people think it's too late and that they haven't got enough money. Like, I hear that as well, even now, like, I haven't got a pension because I haven't got enough money. Like, well, anything is better than nothing. So, how easily and affordably, I'm going to use that word, can people start to invest in themselves in that way for the future? How does it work?
You can find a fund, a platform online quite easily that will allow you to invest £25 a month, £50 a month, £100 a month. And my key thing is, it's never too little, because if you say, well, there's no point in putting £25 a month in, I might as well just carry on buying that coffee, or just I waste £25 a month or £50 a month on food at the supermarket that doesn't get eaten and gets thrown out. But it doesn't matter, because there's no point in doing anything else. Well, if you flipped your way of thinking and thought, hang on a minute, that's definitely not working for me, it's literally being thrown into the bin. I could put that 25 or 30 or £50 a month, or a little bit more, into something. £50 a month in a year's time, even without any growth, and you would hope that it's going to grow, but that's £600 that you've got there. In 5 years' time, that's a reasonable amount that's starting to build. And yet all you've done is diverted the money that you were previously literally throwing away.
Yeah.
And then you can start to add to it. So you start with £25 a month, and then you realise that actually you've just cancelled your Audible subscription because you've got 27 credits that are unused and a whole library of books that you haven't then listened to. So you cancel that subscription, and that's freed up another tenner a month.
Oh my God,
that tenner in.
Done that. That's freaky. It's like, did you know that? I have literally just cancelled my Audible. So I haven't got time. Yes.
Spotify Premium. Over lockdown, those of us that had children around that we were desperately trying to entertain might have upgraded their Sky package, or added Netflix, or added Now TV, or added Disney Plus. And that might have been what saved our sanity at the time. But do we still need them now? How much are we paying for all of these things that are not being used? Could we cancel 2 or 3 of those and just divert the money? We're not getting any extra money in. We're not going out to earn any extra money. We're just looking at what we've got and rediverting it. And that can then just go into a pot that, instead of being a wasted television channel, is, or another credit that's never going to get used,
or another pair of shoes.
Shoes, we have to maybe sort of like, we have to be realistic here.
You can love this, Kim. I bought 7 wedding dresses. I got married.
I know.
21, 7 wedding dresses. I'm now trying to sell 4 of them. I've already got rid of 3 of them. But yeah, they're so lovely though. They look pretty. But yeah, again, that is such practical, lovely advice. I love that.
But it's little and often, just let it creep up. And before you know it, instead of looking back and saying, oh my word, how much have I wasted over the years? It's, oh my word, I didn't realise it was building up like that, because you're not noticing it.
Yeah, no, I love it. And well, it's the use it or lose it. So there's loads, we all spend out for loads of things. I had this conversation, like I literally have had all this conversation yesterday. It's like really weird. It's like I must have known I was having this with you. But yeah, it's like how many subscriptions do we have? How many memberships do we have? You know, and I think if it's like, if I don't know about you, but if it's less than £30, I'll probably think, oh, I'll just leave it. I might use it. Like I've got one to something called Body Groove, which I've never used. I just think, oh, it's just renewed. I forgot I even had it. It was £50. That £50 could have been something that went into something else. So we are quite wasteful, aren't we? As a society, we are.
Yeah, we don't want to be. You know, I think genuinely we don't want to be wasteful. We don't want to think of ourselves as making poor decisions. But each thing that we spend our money on is a conscious decision that we could make.
Gym membership alone could actually net you quite a lot. All the money I've spent on gym memberships that I've never been to, I could have probably been worth quite a lot of money, actually. It's been a lot. So Kim, which apps or which how do you suggest people start? Because obviously they're going to listen to this and go, oh yeah, I could do that. I'm definitely wasting £50 a month on a whole load of crap that I don't need. Wine, cigarettes, I don't know, shoes. Some of those are non-negotiable, coffee. Yeah, how do they get started? What's the physical? Is there an app they go to or a website, or what do you suggest?
So there's lots and lots of places that you can start. You know, rather than sort of directing you to just one, the first thing is to say, how much have you got to put away each month? Because some of those apps have a minimum requirement. So some will say they start at £50 a month. So Fidelity, for example, Fidelity is an online platform with a range of funds. They start at £50 a month. You could look at another one that starts at £25 a month. You could have something that has a lump sum of £500 a month as a starting point, or something that has a £5,000 a month as a starting point. So first off, you need to know what it is that you've got available.
And these are not savings accounts. This is an investment.
No, this is an investment. Yes. So what you do is you
think, I put that money and I'm going to lose it, like crypto or like high investments. So you know what actually happens? What happens?
So,
I mean,
I always tell people we have a pyramid, a wealth pyramid. So we start at the bottom with the really solid foundation. That's the house you live in. You know, you've got to make sure that you've got somewhere to live so that whatever you do, even if you've got a mortgage on it, that's not a problem, but you have the stability of a house and knowing that you can pay your bills. And then you have your cash buffer. That's going to be your emergency fund, because what we don't want to do is putting money in to invest it, then getting to the end of the month and thinking, I've left myself short in my current account. I'll just take out that money. You know, that £50 a month that I put in. That's
the one I see most in business owners. I'll just take that from the VAT account, or I'll just take that from the tax account. No, don't do that. It's not your money.
Yes. That's it. So there's always an element of general financial management that goes alongside it. So we only want to be looking at creaming off the real surplus to put into investment, because then that becomes the money that you are going to build for the longer term. So you need to be able to leave it there and not worry about the ups and downs of stock markets, because they will come along and they will happen. And what I teach my ladies is to learn not to panic, to learn to prioritize those cash payments first, so that they've always got money to pay for their holiday, to pay for Christmas, to pay for when the car doesn't get through its MOT, shoes. No, but there are things that people don't think about. Buying school uniforms in September can be quite expensive for those of you who've got 3 or 4 children to get to school. If you don't plan for that and it takes you by surprise, you know, why it should take you by surprise when the beginning of term starts every year, but it does for some reason. And we don't want you to then have to raid that investment pot, because otherwise it will never have an opportunity to grow.
Love that. I love the visual of the pyramid. I mean, everything I do is in pyramids. It's NLP. We talk about neurological levels. I love that foundation, and then the living, the kind of then the buffer, and then the cream of the top, like
that's when you can start taking a little bit more risk. So the middle of that pyramid is where you're going to start building your pension pot, your long-term savings through investment. You know, it might be that you want to be able to access them in 5 or 10 years' time. It might not be that you're thinking as far ahead as your pension, but that's going to be your sort of solid, nice, steady growth, bit of risk, but not too much. You know, we want to get that building, you know, for you, because we don't want to lose our money. Because once we've lost it, we've got to replace it somehow. And that's when the gambling tendencies start to come in, that we've lost it. You know, I've been there in terms of investing and taking too much risk. I've been like a child in a sweetie shop with all of these amazing things in front of me. It's like, I'll have one of those, I'll have one of those. Oh, heck, that one's gone down. Oh my word, I've just got to get this to replace it. You know, it can be very easy to get into that mindset. So if we have that bit in the middle that is nice and stodgy, that has an element of growth to it, then the bit on top of that, if we have the right mindset, the right attitude, and can afford to, that's when we can start taking the extra risk that things like foreign exchange and cryptocurrency and penny shares can bring. So they can bring great returns, but they can also wipe out everything that you've put in. So that's only going to be for the few who can genuinely afford it and who've got the ability to cope with the stress that goes along with it, because it can get quite stressful.
I love it. I'm in. I love it. I love it. I love it because it serves the safety, which is what the unconscious mind needs. It also serves the excitement, which we also need. Otherwise, we're kind of flatline, aren't we? We don't want too much excitement, or we're like, we don't want too much safety. So we need that nice little balance. So I love your metaphor, your analogy of the pyramid. So do you do this one-to-one? Is it groups? Is it a membership? Is it online? How do people get access to you, Kim?
Any or all of those things, because one of the things that I'm really passionate about is making it as accessible as I can to everybody, because everybody needs to save for their future. Everybody wants to have financial choices in their future, whether they are working part-time in a supermarket on minimum wage, or whether they are a 6 or 7 figure, salary taker or business owner. We all have a future and we all want to get the best out of it, and we're all working damn hard. And in many ways, those people who are slogging their guts out at minimum wage are working harder than many of those people who are shouting on the internet about the fact that they're taking in 7 figures and only earning, working 10 hours a week. So I want to make sure that everybody has the ability to ask the questions, get the advice in terms of their money management and where to start, and to know that they can put their money into something that is going to grow. So I have one-to-one coaching that starts from a half-day intensive right the way up to 12-month VIP packages. And I have a monthly membership for a new academy that I've started, the Wealth and Investment Academy, which is £49 a month, which takes women through the step-by-step journey to creating their pot of invested wealth.
Love it.
Starting off with, what have you got in your bank account that is not serving you?
How much are you spending in Starbucks? Is that the first question? How much are you spending in Starbucks?
Not quite, because coffee is my thing. Costa coffee was my thing. I used to work in an office in the city where they had a Costa opposite, and when I'd gone through my divorce, I wasn't eating properly. I was going to work, into Costa first thing in the morning, back into Costa again at 11. I didn't eat properly, so coffee was my lunch replacement. And then again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was back there to try and avoid the slump to get me through to 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whenever I was going to finish work. Now, many times I could not afford that coffee and it went on my credit card. My return on investment, though, was phenomenal, because the manager of said Costa Coffee asked me out on a date.
Woo-hoo.
2 weeks later, I asked him to move in with me.
Wow.
It didn't quite do, I know, it didn't quite sort of jump that quickly, but 4 months later, he did move in with me, and we've now been married for 6 years. So I will never, ever tell anybody that they must cut out the thing that keeps them sane.
I've got a similar, well, not a similar story as that, but my wife, who is now my wife, we met on a dating app, and it was a free, and then you had to pay for the upgrade. And I kept thinking, why am I paying for this upgrade? It was only about £30, but I was like, this is a rubbish app. There's nobody on it. It's awful. Why? And I did, and that is how then I saw her details, because it allowed you to search further, and that's when I found her. So definitely some of the things are worth the investment, but it's about making sure this is about informed choices, isn't it, really?
It is.
And helping them understand they can make choices even if they're looking at small amounts of money. And then the thing is, though, I know what you focus on grows, because obviously that's what I teach people. So if you're focused on how much can I do and what can I achieve, your brain will find resources. You'll earn more money automatically. You'll start to look at things differently. So I'm really all for this. Thank you so much for being here today, Kim. It's been absolutely delightful. You may see me program, because I think it sits beautifully with what I do with women as well. And I think you probably do something together, maybe, because like you said earlier, if they get all their mindset right and they start to get the business right and they start to earn the money they're worth, they then need to prepare for the future and not just spend it on holiday. So yeah, I think it sits beautifully. So that
it's getting that balance right. We can spend, we can enjoy it, we can reap the rewards, because we don't know how long we've got. We don't want to be so frugal that we don't allow ourselves to enjoy life because we are solely focusing on building a pot for when we're in our 80s. We need to get that balance right.
Yes.
But we can get that balance right.
I'm going to call this episode "She Enjoys Investing." That's what I'm going to call this. There's the
I love investing.
I know, and I love enjoying. So between us, we're doing very well. Lovely. Thank you so much for being here. There'll be
welcome.
things on this so that you can contact Kim, get in touch with her, join her stuff, follow her on social, and start to stalk how amazing she is and learn how you can be amazing financially too. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.